Discovered years later. My grandsons living under a bridge revealed an incredible, touching truth. Mary Thompson sat by her kitchen window, watching the snow swirl around her quiet Ohio town. Each flake drifting through the winter air whispered memories. But today, the familiar scene felt heavier, charged with an impending storm of emotions that rattled in her chest. The phone shattered the silence, its jarring ring echoing against the walls that felt like they were slowly closing in on her. "Mom, it's Linda." The voice on the other end collapsed her world. A parent's heart can break in many ways, but nothing prepared Mary for the anguish embedded in Linda's tone. "It's about the boys." Terror gripped her. "What's happened?" Months of uneasy silence blurred into desperation. Before she could even conceive the horror, the words spilled out. Alex and Jamie were living under a bridge, abandoned like the hopes Mary had once nurtured for them. The tears fell freely, a torrent of grief and regret. Each drop spilled onto the kitchen table, pooling with guilt. Had she failed them? The distance of years had felt insurmountable, but now the bitter reality overwhelmed her. Her grandsons, just teenagers, were clutching survival among shadows and rust. Mary's breath caught. The essence of her nurturing gone cold, she vacillated between panic and determination. An inner voice questioned her ability to face the stigma of society. How could she, a once beloved teacher adored for her wisdom, now engage with judgmental eyes that would see nothing but her grandson's failures? She hesitated to pick up her coat, a tidal wave of hopeful empowerment coupled with fear washing over her. The thought of Alex and Jamie emerged, their youthful faces twisting in her mind. Would they even want to see her after so long? No. Find a way to reach them, to prove that family always mattered, even amid despair. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she stepped into the bitter chill, the sharp wind stung her cheeks, holding forgotten memories hostage. Her heart pounded. Both dread and hope coursed through her veins. Every echo of her footsteps was a reminder of solitude as she reached the bridge that would either reunite her with her boys or shatter her expectations into a million icy pieces. When she finally spotted them, bundled in ragged layers, a pang of pain gripped her. They looked so vulnerable. They had drawn in on themselves against the unforgiving steel and concrete that surrounded them. Would they let her in? Would they fight against the battle of being labeled as the lost? As she approached, her heart ached. This was it. Would they shrink away from her? Or would they embrace the warmth of a grandmother's love? The weight of societal judgment pressed heavily on her shoulders. The judgments and whispers of a small town loomed larger than the bitter chill surrounding them. Struggling for the right words, Mary felt the icy fingers of doubt wrap around her heart. What if they rejected her? What would it mean if she couldn't bridge that last gap? There, beneath the bridge where shadows threatened to swallow their light, determination ignited within her once more. She must not only fight for her grandsons, but against a world ready to forget them. The stakes were steep, and she could feel the tension rising, a storm brewing not just in the skies, but within her very soul. Would they rise with her, or would the darkness of despair extinguish their potential? Mary stood a few feet away, the biting wind cutting through her clothes as if it sought to chill the very resolve building inside her. Her grandsons huddled together under a tattered blanket, their faces obscured but still familiar. A wave of love mingled with sorrow crashed over her, forcing her to momentarily close her eyes against the rising tide. This was not how she envisioned their reunion. It should have been filled with laughter and warmth, not desperation and despair. "Alex! Jamie!" she called, her voice trembling but firm, like the first rays of dawn breaking through a long, dark night. At the sound of her voice, their heads snapped up. Momentary disbelief washed over their features, quickly giving way to caution. The silence that followed was a gaping chasm filled with unspoken words, pain, and loss. She took a step closer, wanting to reach them, wanting to erase the distance that had burgeoned like a chasm between them all these years. "Grandma?" Alex's voice cracked, as if testing the waters of a relationship that felt foreign yet deeply familiar. "I'm here. I'm so sorry it took me so long," she said, swiping at the tears that threatened to spill down her cheeks. Jamie swallowed hard, his eyes darting between Mary and the reality of their situation. "What are you doing here?" he asked, not unkindly, but with a hard edge of vulnerability, her heart twisted painfully at the question. "I came to find you. I never stopped thinking about you both. I want to help." The air around them shifted, thickening with the weight of their shared past. Could she do it? Could she marshal the strength to guide them back into the light? Each moment spent in the bitter cold gnawed at her resolve, each second ticking louder than her heartbeat. "We don't need help," Alex mumbled, looking down. "We're fine." The defensive barrier he put up was clear. It echoed years of hurt and rejection. "Fine," Mary echoed, taking a step forward, her instinct urging her to break through. "Is this what you want? To be alone under a bridge?" At her words, Jamie's shoulders slumped slightly, and the barrier began to show cracks. She pressed on, fueled by the fear of letting them slip away again. "I know it's hard to trust me right now, but I can't just leave you here. You're my family." "Family?" Alex's bitterness resurfaced. "Where was family when we needed you?" The accusation stung, igniting the guilt she'd tried to bury. She recalled the years of missed calls and birthday parties, feeling like a lifetime away. "I know. I failed you and I can't change the past. But staying here won't fix anything. Let me help you find a place. Let me show you that you're not alone." For a moment, silence enveloped them again, broken only by the whisper of the wind. Mary felt the shifting dynamic, her words hanging heavy in the air. Hope battled despair within her, longing to bridge that gap they had built together over the years. But fear of rejection threatened to root her in place. Alex turned away, wrestling internally with his thoughts. She could see the conflict swirling behind his guarded expression. Jamie, however, looked directly at her, his eyes reflecting a flicker of vulnerability. "What do you mean?" he finally asked, and in that question, she sensed the faintest glimmer of hope. "I mean, I'll be here. I'll fight for you too," she declared. "But I need you to let me help." As they considered her words, Mary held her breath, fully aware that each moment spent diluting the tension around them was a chance to forge a new path. Then it happened. A slight nod from Jamie, a slow easing of Alex's guarded posture. It was tentative, but it was a step. A small but crucial shift toward the possibility of redemption. I don't know if I can," Alex finally whispered. His hardship laid bare. Mary shifted forward, her heart pounding fiercely. "You can. Together we can. I won't let you go again." She could feel the path ahead fill with obstacles, yet unmeasured. Yet as the wind began to die down, she also felt a new chapter unfurling around them, beckoning them into a brighter, yet uncertain, future. "Let's go home," she urged, holding her breath for their response. And in that moment, beneath the bridge where shadows lingered, the storm within her began to calm. Would they take her hand and step into the light, embracing the possibility of a fresh start? Or would they retreat into shadows once more, Mary gazed into her grandson's eyes. The moment stretched taut, a fragile tension reverberating through the air. She could sense their hesitation, each heartbeat echoing years of doubt and hurt. Jamie's nod fueled her determination, igniting a spark of hope that began to thaw the icy chill of uncertainty. "Okay," Alex finally murmured, the word barely audible, yet heavy with significance. It carved a path through the sturdy facade he had built over the years, a small admission of vulnerability. His gaze shifted to Jamie, who seemed to anchor himself, drawing strength from their bond. "We don't have anywhere to go," Alex added, his voice hardening again, but less defensively. "Not really." Hearing his words revived the guilt Mary thought she'd begun to bury, but she refused to let it consume her. "Then let's find somewhere," she replied, her tone resolute. "Together we can create a plan. We can find a safe place, a home." The brothers exchanged glances, an unspoken dialogue passing between them. It was imperative now that she not only articulated her intentions, but displayed the actions necessary to back them up. She felt the weight of responsibility settle across her shoulders, as if the very world depended on her abilities to navigate this fractured landscape they found themselves in. "All right." Jamie's unexpected admission pulled her gaze back to him. "We'll come with you. But we don't need your pity." A wave of relief washed over her. "It's not pity, Jamie. I promise I'm here because I care. I want to help you both stand back on your feet." As she spoke, Mary made herself a silent promise. She would not repeat the mistakes of the past, her heart set on rebuilding the trust that had eroded between them. She stepped closer, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. They moved slowly, hesitant to fully engage with the prospect of change. Mary led them back towards the streets they had once called home, each step reverberating with the ambivalence of past grievances and potential reconnections. Mary fumbled through her pockets, her fingers brushing against the folded bills she'd tucked away. The small sum was a tangible reminder of her commitment, a seed for new beginnings. "First, let's get something to eat. Then we'll talk about what's next," she suggested, her heart pounding with untempered hope. "You don't have to buy us food," Alex interjected. "It's not... You don't have to feel responsible for us." "No, I want to. It's a start." She sensed her own confidence growing, fueled by their willingness to engage, even if it was laced with reluctance. As they made their way to a nearby diner, memories of laughter and conversations over shared meals flooded Mary's mind, overpowering her with nostalgia. How she had once taken those fleeting moments for granted. Now they seemed like fragile relics of a different life. Inside the diner, the warmth enveloped them, the aroma of coffee and grilled food stirring a sense of comfort. She watched as Alex and Jamie sifted through the menu, their expressions a blend of anticipation and skepticism. "Do they still have the grilled cheese?" Jamie asked, raising an eyebrow, a hint of boyish enthusiasm shading his tone. Mary smiled, grateful for this connection to the past. "I'm sure they do. And fries, too. Get whatever you want." For the first time she saw a flicker of openness in their eyes, a momentary crack in the armor they bore. That flicker was only a beginning, but it tethered her to hope. Placing their order, Mary watched them as they engaged in hesitant banter, testing the waters of their relationship. There was palpable energy in the exchange, a growing willingness to reconnect, partially. Yet, even as they rediscovered these small joys, Mary couldn't ignore the lurking shadows. She was acutely aware of the journey still ahead, a path fraught with the complexities of their past. What would it take to mend the rifts that lay buried beneath their skin? As they enjoyed their meal, a heavy silence fell, punctuated only by the clattering of forks. It was as if each of them knew deeper conversations awaited, like a mountain looming in the distance. "Mary," Alex said suddenly, breaking through the quiet. "What do you plan to do? You're always so busy. You have your own life." The question hung in the air. Would she be willing to upend everything to aid them? To forge a new path, she would have to face that this was about much more than just mending fences. It was about redefining her purpose now, intertwined with their future. "I plan to fight for both of you. I plan to be present." In that declaration was a shift, a shared understanding. But would that be enough to carry them into a future filled with promise? The resolution of the past was still shrouded in uncertainty, with every step forward carving away at the resolve that had driven her thus far. As they exited the diner, Mary felt an unshakable weight press down her chest. The moment of truth would rise again soon. She could sense it edging closer. Would this tentative bond hold under greater scrutiny, or would the cracks they fought to mend deepen? The horizon brightened, yet the storm remained within, whispering caution. And just as the gust of wind had settled around them before, now it swelled once more, pushing them all towards an inevitable confrontation with their shared past and uncertain future. Which path would choose? Mary remained braced for whatever awaited them next. Mary inhaled deeply, the crisp evening air laced with tension as they ambled down familiar streets, her thoughts buzzing with uncertainty. Each step carried the weight of their shared past, echoing with memories of laughter and loss. She needed to steer them toward a future, yet daunting questions gnawed at her. Could she truly reconnect with Alex and Jamie? Would they let her in? She caught glimpses of the boys, shadows of their former selves, as curiosity mingled uneasily with apprehension. Their hesitant glances at her felt like evaluations, as if they were trying to determine whether she was trustworthy or simply a fleeting echo of the past they wanted to escape. She couldn't blame them. She had played a part in their struggles. Yet, she had also come to recognize that this journey wasn't just about them, but about her too. "We should think about what you both want next," she said abruptly, breaking the silence, her voice steadying through an unshed tide of nerves. "Want?" Alex replied, raising an eyebrow. "What's there to want? We just need to survive." His bluntness stung. She understood the survival mentality well. Mary felt her own instincts flare up, torn between the urge to defend her intentions and the understanding that harsh realities dulled the edges of hope. "I know," she replied softly, meeting his gaze. "But what if survival isn't all there is? What if we could dream bigger?" A flash of irritation flickered across Alex's face, and Jamie shifted uncomfortably beside him. Mary could sense the churning conflict within her grandsons, an internal tempest fueled by past disappointments. For a moment, the atmosphere thickened with unsaid words. "Listen, I understand you've had to make tough choices. I've been stuck too, wrestling with regrets of my own. Maybe it's time for all of us to explore new possibilities together." "I guess we could use a roof over our heads," Jamie said, breaking the tension with a nervous chuckle, though his smile didn't quite meet his eyes. "But what about money? Jobs?" Their hesitations echoed loudly in the night air, and Mary seized the opportunity to instill a sense of agency. "We can brainstorm ideas. Each of us has something to offer. I might still have connections to help. We'll create a plan." Both boys grew silent again, absorbing her words. The prospect of planning felt lighter, less burdensome than the worry of what had been. She realized that while they grappled with survival, they also yearned for something more meaningful, buried beneath layers of hurt. As they rounded a corner, Mary spotted an old mentor's office where she had spent countless hours strategizing new initiatives. A small thrill sparked within her. Could she call on those connections again? Could she revive that spirit of collaboration? "Why don't we start with things we enjoy? What about skills we've forgotten about?" she suggested, her heart racing. But something changed in both boys' expressions. Was that skepticism? Or perhaps a tiny glimmer of hope she'd scarcely dare interpret? "It's not that easy," Alex stated, his demeanor weighing down with frustration. "You're right, it's not. But then again, nothing truly worthwhile ever is it?" A newfound strength rose within her, fueled by determination to position this fragile bond on solid ground. Suddenly, Mary knew this wasn't just about the physical space they could reclaim, but the emotional landscape they needed to navigate together. As shadows loomed darker around them, the heaviness was punctuated by Alex's voice. "Fine. I'll try. But I'm not promising anything." Reluctantly, he softened, revealing a vulnerability that felt almost like a bridge being constructed between them. But as they discussed potential plans, her mind drifted to the fight ahead. Trust would take time, and the prospect of failure loomed large. What if her attempts fell apart? What if they were too broken to heal? Her gut twisted as they turned down a dimly lit street, their path a constant reminder of the lighter days when life had been bursting with potential. "I can't promise we'll get it right the first time, but I'll do everything I can to support you both," Mary said, her voice thick with unspoken emotions. She felt the trust shift dangerously in the air, a precipice ready to plunge into uncertainty. The boys paused at a corner, and Mary could feel the shift in energy, the howling wind seeming to whisper ambiguously. "Just know, Mary, we might not be your perfect grandsons," Jamie murmured, a new edge to his voice. "None of us are perfect, Jamie. But we can strive to be better. Together." With that declaration behind them, they stepped forward into the night, embroiled in uncharted territory where renewed dreams and old wounds lay intertwined. Would they manage to navigate their path without falling into the chasms of their past? Behind them, a shadow shifted unsettlingly closer. A distant figure watching from across the street. Mary's heart lurched. Was this fate closing in, or danger drifting silently along with them? As they moved further into the night, Mary's senses sharpened, the dull thrum of anxiety transforming into a piercing awareness. The lingering shadow from behind forced her to confront a fear that clawed at the edges of her mind. Trust would not only be built between her and the boys, but also in the environment they found themselves in, one tinged with mystery and unease. "Maybe we should find a spot to sit and talk more about this," Jamie suggested, casting cautious glances over his shoulder. His tentative optimism flickered like a candle in a hesitant breeze. "Good idea. Somewhere a little less exposed," Mary replied, scanning their surroundings. Each familiar sight held a new context, a reminder of the past intertwined with the present. They walked silently until they stumbled upon a small park, its dim lights offering a semblance of safety. Settling onto a worn bench, Mary drew a deep, steadying breath. "Okay, let's actually talk about those skills we've overlooked," she prompted, her heart hammering as she sought to ignite a spark in their conversation. Alex crossed his arms, his body language still radiating skepticism. "It's not like we're going to just find jobs waiting for us. No, but it's about harnessing what we have," Mary conceded, feeling her resolve harden. "What do you both enjoy? What have you done in the past that made you feel alive?" Jamie hesitated, his brows furrowing in thought. "I used to love drawing. It was just fun." "Drawing?" Mary's voice rose slightly, infused with encouragement. "That's great. Art can be an incredible outlet. What about you, Alex?" A curl of defensiveness formed around his lips. "I don't have any real skills. I just got by." "Survival skills are skills. You've navigated some tough waters." Mary leaned closer, lowering her voice to draw him in. "What about things you've had to organize or plan?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I only did that to keep us safe." "Exactly," she pressed on. "That takes a mind that can think ahead, prepare for unpredictability." Those are powerful tools in their own right. Alex's expression flickered, doubt still present but dimming. Maybe. Mary felt a shift, a gradual opening. Each small acknowledgement from her grandsons fueled her mission. "Listen," she said, her tone earnest. "I'm here because I want to help us all get back to a place where we can thrive again. Not just survive. Each of us has stories, and those stories can be louder than the shadows that loom." Their conversation thrummed on, small promises forming like the tendrils of warmth beginning to unfurl between them. Yet, the end of their discussion was anchored by unspoken anxieties. Just as the boys began to share snippets of their hidden talents, Mary's gaze caught on the same shadow that had lurked behind them earlier. A figure emerged from the darkness, a scruffy man with a wild beard. Panic surged through her, but she quickly adjusted her demeanor to one of calm resolve. "Stay close," she whispered to her grandsons, instincts guiding her to stand protectively in front of them. "Hey, you got a light?" The man's gravelly voice cut through the silence, the threat of confrontation trickling into the air. Mary felt the chill settle deeper within her. This was the moment, the kind she had dreaded since the start of this journey. "We don't smoke," she replied, trying to maintain an air of confidence, though her heart thumped violently in her chest. "Just messin' with you, lady. Nothing to be afraid of," the man sneered. But there was something more dangerous in his approach. Mary's mind raced. Was this a warning of more challenges to come? "Let's get moving," she urged Alex and Jamie, urgency pushing her forward. They stood, not breaking eye contact with the man, who seemed dismissive yet oddly lingering in the shadows. Their hurried steps stirred a stubborn thought within Mary. Would she always be the one to protect? Or could Alex and Jamie rise to confront their own fears? A swelling tension pulled at the group, fraught with burgeoning confidence but marred by lurking dangers. As they retreated down the darkened path, a realization hit Mary. Growth never travels an easy route. If they were to reclaim their lives, they would need to face adversities head-on, not only from within, but from the threatening shadows that lurked beyond. They reached a fork in the path, but the way ahead was shrouded in uncertainty. "We can't keep running from everything," Alex said, sounding bolder now. With a deep breath, Mary nodded. "Then we'll confront whatever comes our way. Starting now." Unbeknownst to them, the shadow had followed them down the street, changing direction even as they hurried on. What lay ahead, now entwined with both fear and newfound determination, promised to test their resolve in ways they couldn't yet understand. Would they find the strength to stand together against whatever challenge awaited them? Or would the past once more unleash its grip, binding them in chains of despair? The sound of footsteps echoed in the quiet night as Mary, Jamie, and Alex found themselves navigating the path away from the unsettling encounter. The heavy weight behind their decision to confront their fears pressed on all sides, transforming the air around them into a taut string, ready to snap. Mary caught herself glancing over her shoulder, each crackling leaf and whispering wind sparking a fresh surge of anxiety. Yet with each passing moment, as the shadows gave way to flickering streetlights, her heart steadied. The resilience she sought to cultivate within them all began to flicker, like the warming glow of a fire catching flame after the initial struggle. "What's our next move?" Jamie broke the silence, his youthful voice carrying a mix of concern and determination. Mary considered his question carefully. "I think we first need to regain our bearings. We've spent so much time in fear of what's around us that we've not focused on what's within us. Jamie, you mentioned drawing. How long has it been since you picked up a pencil?" His brows furrowed again, but it was a different kind of furrow, one reflective instead of fearful. "I guess a while. I used to do it all the time. It was easy back then. Why don't you give it another shot?" Mary suggested, a gentle encouragement nudging him forward. Art took you to a different place. It's not just about finding a job. It's about rediscovering your joy. Let's find you some materials to work with. Jamie's hesitance melted into a tentative smile. I'd like that. It reminded me of who I am. Mary turned her attention to Alex, who had listened in silence, his face set in contemplation. And you, Alex? What about you? Organized survival. The way you handled everything when things got rough? That's got to mean something. You had a plan even when you didn't know how it would turn out. He regarded her with guarded scrutiny, but the light of contemplation sparked in his eyes. I don't know if I'd call it organizing. I just wanted to keep us safe, he muttered, the edge softening with nostalgia. But that's it. Mary leaned a little closer. Safety is built on strategy, on foresight. What if we thought of that experience as a skill? We could take what you've learned and channel it into something constructive. A flicker of interest crossed his face, but faded just as quickly. Maybe I could. But what does it mean? I mean, how does that help now? Because it shows you how to pivot, Alex. You've made it through because you adapted when things got rough. Resources might be scarce, but we can create our own, all with what we have learned together. As a family, we need to share these skills. It's time to invest in each other, and more importantly, in ourselves. As the moon rose higher above them, Mary felt the chorus of the night take on a different tone. They were no longer simply fleeing the shadows. They were stepping toward an uncertain, but hopeful, light ahead. With a newfound sense of purpose, they pressed on, Mary leading their small band through the twists and turns of the street, her heart pulsing with the knowledge that what they were shedding in fear, they were gaining in resolve. But as they turned a corner, the air shifted again. A low howl swept through the night, chilling her bones and halting their progress. A group of rough voices approached from the alleyway just ahead, and with it, the night's unsettling reminder that some shadows were not quite left behind. Stay close, she murmured, instinctively shifting into a protective stance once more. This time, though, she felt not just the weight of duty to guard them, but a rising surge of empowerment. Perhaps this confrontation would unveil the very skills they had begun to recognize within themselves. As the figures loomed closer, Mary turned to the boys and whispered fiercely, "You are not just observers in your lives anymore. The time has come to face whatever is in the dark," their eyes locked, determination shaping their expressions. But just as they prepared to take the next step, Mary's heart raced. Was this truly the pivotal moment for which they had been preparing? In that very instant, the tension coiled tightly around them, ready to strike. What lay before them, confrontation or opportunity, would reveal the transformative power of facing their fears together. Mary felt the weight of the world pressing against her chest as they stood frozen, the faint echoes of laughter and rough conversations growing louder from the alley. In that moment, the flicker of determination she had seen in Jamie and Alex transformed into an unspoken agreement. They were ready to confront their reality together. Her mind raced through possible strategies, analyzing their surroundings for any advantage. "Remember what we talked about?" she whispered, scanning their face for assurance. "We have power in our knowledge. Let's use that." With those words, she stepped forward, a crackling energy pulsating through her veins. The shadows didn't intimidate her as much as they once had. Rather, they seemed to beckon a confrontation. Excitement mingled with fear in her gut, spurring her onward. "We can't afford to let fear dictate our actions anymore." Jamie took a step closer to her side, his previous hesitance melting away into a new resolve. "What if we make it more difficult for them to see us?" he suggested. "Maybe we can flank them from either side." There was a spark of the artist within him, envisioning possibilities instead of just threats. "Yes." Mary nodded enthusiastically, his idea resonating within her. You're thinking strategically. Alex, how about you and Jamie take the left side? I'll approach from the right and— Wait, Alex interrupted, his brow knit in contemplation as he stepped forward. What if we're aggressive? We could scare them off. I've seen some guys act tough before. Maybe we need to show we're not afraid. The resolve in Mary's heart mixed with concern for the feasibility of aggression. Yes, there was strength in appearance. But if they bluffed bravado, would it hold up when push came to shove? Would it put them in a more dangerous position? She felt an internal push and pull, a familiar trait of her growth journey. Alex, you're right to think about being strong, Mary interjected. But let's explore the balance of strength and strategy. We can present a unified front without unnecessarily escalating this. Let's be aware of ourselves but not give all of our cards away. A cautious hope glimmered in Alex's eyes, but Mary knew they all still felt the uncertainty lurking like the alley's shadows. They had to act, to move away from the heaviness of inaction. What happens next? Jamie's voice wavered, the boy she saw momentarily appearing through the cracks of his budding confidence. We look for vulnerabilities, Mary affirmed, a calm determination resonating in her tone. We stick to our plan, listening and adapting. If it comes to a confrontation, be prepared. We can lean on each other for strength. And just like that, a newfound courage unfolded around them, an invisible shield built on shared resolve. Each of them was discovering the innate strength simmering inside, ready to be expressed in a moment of urgency. Blending into the alleyways of their own possibilities, they circled around, sharing quick glances brimming with unspoken camaraderie. The transformation in each of them was striking. Jamie began to sketch the scene in his mind, using mental frames as he once did on paper. Alex wore a mask of tenacity that pushed past his cautious demeanor. As they prepared to confront the looming figures, an unexpected thunderclap erupted above, startling them. The weight of impending rain matched the ominous momentum of the moment. Tension crackled thick in the air, as if nature itself echoed their vault of emotions. Everything within Mary twisted like a coiling snake. They took a step forward, not fully aware of what lay ahead, but fueled by the commitment to embrace their fears. Together they became a tapestry woven from the threads of pain, uncertainty, and burgeoning resilience. The darkness before them was not just a threat. It was an opportunity to emerge as their truest selves. Okay, Mary whispered, her voice gaining clarity over the approaching storm. Let's face whatever forms in that darkness, together. As they stepped into the flickering light of their decision, the echo of their thoughts, "We are more than observers," resonated deeply. But just as they crossed the threshold, an unexpected figure surged from the shadows, halting their progress. Their real test awaited them, and the hastening realization rushed in. The true nature of what they would confront had yet to be revealed. In that suspended moment, Mary could not shake the sense that this confrontation would change everything. Like the first brushstroke on an untouched canvas, the world around them prepared itself for an explosion of truth. The sudden figure loomed in the half-light, a silhouette that merged with the swirling shadows of the alley. Mary's heart raced as adrenaline surged through her, and she could feel the shared intensity among her friends. This was not merely a moment of confrontation. It was a threshold into a deeper understanding of themselves, of each other, and of the choices that had led them here. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a grizzled man with weary eyes reflecting the same mixture of uncertainty and resilience they felt. He regarded them, not with hostility, but with a heavy curiosity, as if he too was uncertain about what to make of their gathering. Mary's mind shifted into gear, dissecting the possibilities. Who was he? A threat, or a potential ally? "Who are you?" she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos of her thoughts. "Just someone passing through," he replied, his voice rough like gravel. "Not here to cause trouble, just looking for a place to stay dry." The unexpectedness of his response caught Mary off guard. It sparked a flicker of empathy within her, yet caution tugged at her instincts. This was a pivotal moment, one that called for a delicate balance of benevolence and vigilance. "What brings you here?" Alex chimed in, his voice betraying a mix of wariness and intrigue. The man shifted slightly, glancing toward the direction of their approach. "Same as you, I reckon. Seeking a way through the dark." He let out a deep sigh that seemed to resonate with the tension still thick in the air. "Sometimes you find more in shadows than you do in the light." Mary turned to Jaime and Alex, their eyes wide with contemplation. This moment was morphing into something entirely different than she had envisioned. It wasn't just them against some unseen hostile force. It was a shared experience, a confluence of struggles they were all facing in disparate ways. "What do you mean?" Mary asked cautiously, drawn in by the man's cryptic words. Behind her steady voice, her mind raced, longing for clarity. "People see shadows as a threat," he said, scrunching his brow in thought. "But they're also a part of life, a place where you can find shelter, or even reconnect with something you thought was lost." He gestured to the darkness behind him, where the shadows danced like memories half-remembered. Mary felt a shiver run down her spine. The man's words hinted at a depth she hadn't anticipated. She sensed the collective uncertainty of her friends. They too were grappling with the metaphorical shadows they harbored, remnants of their own insecurities and fears. "What if we can help each other?" Jaime finally suggested, shifting weight from one foot to the other, as the vulnerability of their circumstance settled over him like a blanket. "You said you were looking for a place to stay dry. What do you need?" The man studied Jaime, a flicker of surprise crossing his weathered face. "I've gotten by without much," he admitted. But a conversation never hurt anyone. As they began to talk, spilling not only their superficial worries but their unrealized dreams, each of them found pieces of themselves in the vulnerable exchange. They explored their thoughts on fear, ambition, and identity. And Mary realized that this man, despite being a stranger, resonated with the themes they had been grappling with on their journey. In that alleyway illuminated by fleeting moments of shared humanity, Mary recognized that their growth wasn't just about confronting threats. It was about embracing the connections forged in vulnerability. Each word they exchanged cultivated an understanding, a revelation of their individual strengths, and how those strengths could intertwine to create something far greater than themselves. The thunder rumbling above them seemed to mirror their transformations, and amidst the storm, Mary felt a charge of inspiration flow through her. This encounter was a defining layer in her ongoing narrative, a pivotal moment that would shape her evolving understanding of resilience. As they wrapped up their conversation, a question lingered on the tip of her tongue, half-formed and pulsating with potential. "What do you think happens when we stop running from our shadows?" The man's eyes glimmered with a mix of wisdom and challenge. "You might just find the light waiting for you on the other side." At that moment, realization struck Mary like a lightning bolt. They weren't merely approaching a confrontation. They were beginning to unlock the secrets of their own identities through shared adversity. As the rain began to fall, each drop resonated like a promise of change, and the next chapter of their journey awaited just beyond the corner of clarity. With that profound thought reverberating within her, Mary felt a compelling urge to push forward and seek not just confrontation, but clarity. Perhaps it was time to venture deeper into their world and confront the shadows that loomed in their lives, starting with an understanding of their own truths. What awaited them next was becoming clear, and Mary took a deep breath, ready to step into whatever came next. Unforeseen revelations were on the horizon. The rain fell steadily, washing away the remnants of tension from the alley, as Mary stood at the precipice of something profound. The conversations had stirred something deep within her, exposing vulnerabilities she had kept hidden, even from herself. She had spent so much time focusing on external challenges that she had neglected the inner battles raging within her and her friends. "Are you okay?" Alex's voice broke through her reverie, laced with concern, yet tinged with curiosity. I think I'm ready to face my own shadows," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But it felt like a declaration. She was beginning to understand that facing the darkness required not merely courage, but an acceptance of her own imperfections. "Facing shadows?" Jaime echoed, his brow furrowing with intrigue. "How do you even begin? I mean, isn't it easier to just keep running?" Mary shook her head. "Maybe it's time we stop running. We can't keep pretending these feelings don't exist. They shape how we operate, how we relate to each other, and what we choose to pursue. We need to bring them to light." The thought spun in her mind, propelling her into a decisive action. Let's find out what our shadows are trying to tell us. Instead of avoiding them, let's confront them. Jaime and Alex exchanged glances, a blend of fear and excitement reflecting on their faces. It was more than a struggle ahead. It was a journey that demanded honesty. Brutal honesty, about dreams deferred and paths untraveled. "What if we set some goals for ourselves?" Alex suggested tentatively, already ruminating on the idea, connecting the dots. Not just typical goals, but things we've always wanted to achieve but were too afraid to pursue. "That's exactly what I mean. Goals that reflect who we are, not who we think we should be." Mary encouraged, her heart racing with both anticipation and fear. As the conversation deepened, they began to articulate aspirations that had long lain dormant. Jaime's passion for music, Alex's ambition to travel, and Mary's desire to explore creative writing. These were more than simple dreams. They were fragments of their identities waiting to be reclaimed. "I used to think it was too late for me to pick up the guitar again," Jaime confessed, vulnerability etching lines on his face. "But I miss it. I forgot how liberating it felt." With each shared insight, their spirits lifted, and revelations broke through like sunlight penetrating the clouds. They were peeling back layers of self-doubt, revealing talents neglected in the wake of everyday struggles. Mary felt a wave of clarity wash over her. The shadows didn't just represent failures or fears. They were also echoes of lost passions and unexplored paths. They had the power to inform their choices moving forward. Maybe the first step is committing to those passions. Let's hold each other accountable, share our progress, and encourage one another, she proposed, invigorated by the possibility of growth. "And if we fail?" Alex asked, uncertainty lacing his voice. "Then we learn," Mary replied firmly. "Failing can teach us more than our victories ever could." The dynamic between them began to shift, a burgeoning camaraderie defined by honesty and shared ambition. They were no longer a group reacting to external threats, but a collective determined to confront their personal shadows, ready to transform fear into fuel for progress. As the rain let up, they decided to step into the wider world, together. The alleyway was now just a faint memory, a particular segment of their journey rather than the end of it. The night was still young, and as they resolved to meet again, the lingering questions spun within Mary's mind. Would this newfound commitment be enough? Would they really stick together as they faced the shadows that plagued them? "What's the first step for you tomorrow?" she asked, looking into the eyes of her friends, feeling a tidal wave of resolve build within her. With excitement and trepidation pulsing through them, the three shared affirmations. Yet even as hope surged, apprehension lurked. Just as the promise of tomorrow glimmered brightly, the risk of failure shadowed their declarations. As they stepped away from the alley, the night stretching before them like an uncharted map, Mary felt the weight of uncertainty shift into a tantalizing tension. Their journey was just beginning, but the question of how far they would be willing to go to confront their shadows loomed larger than ever. What would happen when they found the courage to truly face what lay beneath the surface? Mary Thompson stood at the heart of her transformed life, the echoes of her past resonating with newfound clarity. Her grandsons, Alex and Jamie, no longer mirrored the lost shadows she had once feared, but had risen, vibrant and eager to reclaim their identities. The warmth of a shared purpose infused their bond, igniting a fierce determination to embrace who they truly were. "Let's map out a plan," Mary declared, her voice laced with the confidence that flowed through her veins. "We'll set our intentions and hold each other accountable." They settled together in a cozy cafe, a far cry from the grim shadows of the bridge where they had once huddled. The atmosphere buzzed with life, mirroring the revival in their hearts. For the first time, they dared to look forward into a shared future, rather than to linger in the shadows of what had been lost. "Jaime, I want you to bring your guitar tomorrow, and we'll start finding a space for you to play," Mary encouraged, excitement twinkling in her eyes. The flicker of disbelief transformed into a flicker of hope on Jaime's face. "And I could even reach out to a local community center," he mused, the ideas tumbling forth with a bubbling eagerness he had long suppressed. Mary's gaze shifted to Alex, whose expression had shifted from skepticism to a determined intensity. "And you?" she prompted, a knowing smile gracing her lips. "What about your passion for travel? How can we align that with our goals?" "I could look into working at a travel agency," Alex responded, enthusiasm crackling in his voice. "Or maybe pursue some online courses. I never thought I could do something like that," he admitted, words spilling forth in a newfound conviction. The realization hung palpably in the air. This wasn't merely about survival anymore. They were reconstructing their dreams, layer by layer, stone by stone, assembling a future worth navigating. As days turned into weeks, each meeting turned into a culmination of their progress. Mary felt the warmth of accomplishment swell within her as they began to realize that they were not only progressing as individuals, but collectively, as a family. They shared laughter, exchanged ideas, and even reached out to others, creating a network of support that echoed the strength they had cultivated together. "Look at what we've built," Jamie announced one afternoon as they compiled their newfound goals on a shared vision board. "This is real, isn't it?" Mary's heart swelled with pride as they arranged drawings alongside travel brochures and music notes. "Yes, it is," she affirmed, the weight of her previous failures slowly dissipating. "We've become a team, and each of us has a role in this journey." But then, as if to challenge their resolve anew, the shadows of their past crept back. Old acquaintances emerged, whispering doubt and fear. They confronted Mary one evening. "What makes you think that you can truly change their lives?" The affair threatened to pull the threads of her newly woven tapestry apart. Yet, in that moment, Mary stood taller than she ever had. "Because we have a plan," she declared, conviction resonating in every word. "We are actively pursuing our futures, not just surviving. Growth isn't a linear path. It's about transformation. We will overcome this together." Her unwavering tone silenced her critics, and as they stepped back into the light, the warmth of supportive voices around her emphasized that they were now too strong to be swayed. In the months that followed, each small victory transcended into greater achievements. Jaime held his first local gig, the chords he strummed in that cramped venue reinvigorating the affection he had long held for music. Meanwhile, Alex immersed himself in courses that opened his eyes to the world beyond their town, igniting a passion for culture and adventure that he had never dared to explore before. Mary herself rediscovered her joy in teaching. She volunteered at local schools, connecting again with young minds that yearned for guidance. Each lesson taught became a celebration of her own triumph over despair, and she reveled in witnessing the spark of potential flourish in her students. As their three lives intertwined with increasing vibrancy, families formed anew under a shared understanding of struggle and redemption. They planned trips, concerts, and workshops celebrating each other's growth, a testament to the power of regained trust and commitment. On an evening filled with laughter and warmth, as they adorned the walls of their home with new memories, Mary offered a glass of toast, her heart swelling with purpose. To transformation, real transformation, through patience, love, and relentless courage. Look at what we have accomplished together. And they cheered, the sound echoing through the walls of a home reborn as a sanctuary of support. As they gazed into the horizon of their lives, Mary knew unequivocally that each step taken away from the bridge had been a step towards a brighter future. Their past had indeed shaped them, but it no longer defined them. They were stronger, more determined, and fiercely committed to honoring the present. United, they faced the dawning promise of tomorrow, a bright light pulling them forward into uncharted territories. Together, now is your moment to stand with us in celebrating these incredible journeys of personal overcoming. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support means everything to us. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait, even one more second.